I made a decision that my point of view was that people who want to really learn how to be successful shouldn't look at marketers and salespeople. They should look at unconventional figures.
Mike, the principles that you have in your book, like how to connect with influencers in your niche to propel your ideas forward, are quite grounded and they're very sensible. For somebody who wants to become a thought leader and become known as a thought leader, if they haven't tried any of these principles, it can seem overwhelming to look at the list and realize that they can all be helpful. Is there a particular order that you think might be sensible for somebody to start using the principles?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great point. I would say I in a fuzzy way wrote the book in the order that I think is the best way to use the principles. So if there's nothing else that you ever do, you need a point of view, a contrarian point of view. So you need to ask yourself the question I talked about before, which is, what is a point of view in my field that everyone else agrees with that I don't? Because you can do all the other things right, but if someone asks you, what do you stand for? And you're like, I make project management software that has a robust flow and features. It's like you and everybody else, why are you even in business, right? So that's key. And I would say the second thing, which is the second chapter and is very important, is this idea of the piggybacking method, creating a secret society. So people either fall on one of two sides. They talk about building a big social media following. If only I could build 50,000 Instagram followers or 1 million Instagram followers, I'll be successful. And on the other side, they talk about networking, right? They go to these networking events, they drink cocktails, they pass out business cards, they go to BNI and schmooze with massage therapists and whatever. And I'm not putting down massage therapists. It's that if you're trying to sell business-to-business software, I see this all the time, or you're a corporate attorney, and you're networking with people who have one-person businesses, that's not really that great. So what I would say is that the most successful hype artists, they make it seem like their impact and their following is growing very organically, like they're just getting all these people who are so overwhelmed by what they're doing that they gain this big following. But what they're really doing is they're nurturing relationships with people a couple levels above them in either income or influence or whatever, who can pull strings for them. And there's quite a few ways to do that. It's not just about going to networking events and passing out your business cards. It's about finding things that are doable for you to give that are valuable to them. Like, what do you give the person who has everything? Well, it might be help to their kids. It might be, in my case, I interviewed someone once who owns a $500 million company that they started from scratch, right? What could I possibly give this person? Well, they had just moved from Indiana to New York, and they were a huge live music fan, and they didn't know anybody, and they were wondering where they could go see live music. Well, I'm a one-time musician who is very into that, so I took them around, and that person became a mentor to me and really helped me out. So those are the two, I think, that are, if you do nothing else, you need to look at the right way and sort of refine.
That's great advice.
So let's take that advice a little bit further. Which 3 pieces of advice would you give to someone who wants to become famous or wants to surf on hype?
Well, 2 of them I sort of already did. I mean, I would ask that question that I said before about, what's a point of view, and then constantly, relentlessly repeat that. So it's not enough to... Well, so I'll give you an example. So I used to be the co-host of a podcast called Access to Anyone with a friend of mine who David also knows, named Michael Roderick. Awesome podcast. I'm still proud of it. It's still around. Awesome guy. And it made me money. But I quit eventually. Now, why would I do such a thing? I'm telling you, I still listen to it. Because I made a decision that my point of view was that people who want to really learn how to be successful shouldn't look at marketers and salespeople. They should look at unconventional figures, and hype artists and that kind of thing. This show was more like the sunny side of the street. It was all about building relationships, but doing it in a very positive way. Like Michael is like a help your neighbor, positivity, this, and it didn't fit my contrarian point of view. So even though it brought me money, even though it brought me fame, how can I be known for the hype guy, which is, if I'm on a thing called Access to Anyone. So it was a hard decision, but I quit. So I think it's really important to be consistent and figure out who you are in that way and just constantly hammer that. The other thing is really find ways to, do what I said before. You got to connect with those powerful people and get them to pull strings for you. And that's not just networking. That's stalking people on social media until they say something that's human. Maybe a band you share in common, in my case, or a sports team or whatever, and talk to them about that, because everyone's a human being, right? And then I think the third thing, so there's a quote from these guys, Pratganis and Aronson. They wrote a book called Age of Propaganda, and it's something like the essence of propaganda is a well-designed package. And when we think of our packaging, we think of like, I don't know, our logo, our fonts, our website, and all that stuff's important. But what you really need to figure out is, once you figure out your contrarian view, once you figure out how do you turn your weaknesses into strengths, what are your quirks, what are your insecurities, how do you find the flip side of that coin? Weave it through everything you do. Mick Jagger never lets himself get photographed wearing a hoodie, and Levi's, right? I mean, even when he goes to the you see him on the beach with his 17th child or whatever, and he's wearing like the coolest sunglasses in the world at 73. So I'm not saying you have to dress like Mick Jagger, but what is that thing that you are? Andy Warhol never went out in sweatpants, right? And it's not just about clothing. It's like you need to become a cartoon version of yourself a little bit. You need to smooth off the rough edges in public.
Is that a long-lasting effort, or do you think you can become popular quite quickly? Well, I mean, nowadays with social media, everybody wants to become popular in like this. Is it actually possible?
I mean, is it possible? Sure. I mean, I think that the second tactic that I talked about, building a secret society, makes it easier to get popular more quickly. So like this guy Tucker Max wrote this book called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, and it was like this frat boy. They called it fratire. He would talk about all of the women he was sleeping with and getting drunk and this and that. It made him a millionaire, but he got older and he got married and he had a kid and he didn't want to be that guy anymore. So what did he do? He changed his image and he created this company that's now called Scribe Media, but what was called Book in a Box for a while. And he wanted to do it quickly because he didn't want to wait another 10 years to get successful. But over that time, he had become friends with James Altucher, Tim Ferriss, Ryan Holiday. I mean, just the biggest sort of figures in that sort of white male Silicon Valley tech bro corner of the universe, And he called them all up and he said, listen, I have this new business. And he was on all of their podcasts and newsletters in like a 1-month period. And the thing did like $1 million in revenue in 3 months, So like, yeah, but there's nothing in the world that is, I mean, you're asking me, is there such thing as a get rich quick? There's not, I'm not going to tell you there is. And if you hear people, do you know anybody who got really, really successful quickly? I mean, I don't.
Well, there are people that win the lottery.
Yeah, right. People get lucky.
Right,
yeah,
right. There are people that are in very high income professions for a short period of time in their lives, like the tops athletes, for example.
Or become a bond trader. Become a bond trader and take very risky bets, which might work until you lose your shirt. Yeah.
But exactly. But the downside is exactly what you just said, Mike, which is lose your shirt. So like if you look at the data of people that have won the lottery, and a huge percentage lose all the money that they make in the lottery. And the reality is, if you look at the absolute vast majority of people that have achieved what others would call breakthroughs, those breakthroughs are what other people notice after somebody has done a lot of very hard work, step by step by step, for a long time. So
That's been my experience. There is a such thing as luck, though. You know, even beyond the lottery, like you could, if you take enough bets, you know, if you take a lot of small bets, you have a bigger chance of hitting it. But I don't know. I
would say, yeah, I would say something else about the luck, which is that I find that when people have a particular mindset and then they're open to certain kinds of opportunities, then when those opportunities show up, they know to take advantage of them. Whereas if their mindset is more restricted, they don't realize that it's an opportunity and they don't take advantage of them. So yes, in a certain way, it's luck that the opportunity appears, but I think the mindset and how you respond to that opportunity is more important even than the fact that these opportunities come about every so often.
So that's a great point. So I thought of the idea for this book more than 5 years ago, right? I wrote 3 different not sales proposals, like a book proposal for it. I had 2 big agents who came very close to selling the book and didn't sell the book. I mean, I thought it was dead. I mean, and I was like, this is such a good idea. How is this book dead? And then I was invited to go to China for a totally different reason to speak. I spoke. The guys who invited me liked me so much they wanted to do a joint venture where I brought over other speakers. I came home and made a list of people I thought would be good speakers, one of whom was Heidi Krupp, who's a very big PR person who used to pitch me. We had dinner at the Palm. I told her about the China thing. She said, maybe. What are you working on? And I said, well, you know, I've got this hype thing. I might turn it into an online course because the book thing. She goes, you should write a book on that. I said, well, you know, I tried. She goes, I just started a literary agency. And she sold it in 2 months for a really nice sized advance. So that was luck, sort of.
I mean, that's not luck, that's network, actually. And that's something that comes again and again in your discourse. The network is extremely important, actually instrumental to being popular.
The network, the perseverance. Look at Jack Canfield with Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? He got turned down, like 100 some odd times before he got somebody to publish it?
Yeah. And I didn't know that, but that's a massive multi-million
classic story
thing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's a classic book that's been a bestseller for many, many years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but there was luck. I mean, I could have said, you know, I'm not going to really talk to Heidi Krupp. I mean, you know, she, you know, or when I said the hype thing and she said you should make a book, I could have said, totally, that didn't work out, you know, or I could have not sent her the proposal the next day. I mean, there's a million things that we're lucky about it, but you have to, like you said, you have to open your eyes and be ready for it. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to make that transition to being popular and to surf on hype, grab the book. It will be on the shelves here in Europe on the 13th of February 2021. It's already available on Amazon for those who want to buy it in the US. Thank you so much, Mike, for being with us. Thank you so much, David, for being with me as a co-host for this premiere, this new videocast format that we did together. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
This was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.